Welcome to the studio. I am working on some very late Christmas presents for the people in my book club. There are 6 of us, and I've been wanting to make book sleeves for a while, and it seems like a great way to get rid of like scrap fabric as well. So I've actually already started on 2 of them. 2 of them are going to match, the rest of them are going to be random, but this is what I have so far. I actually do have some clips of me making these too. The blocks actually originally came from a quilt I did that was like an attic window reinterpretation in a modern style from, I believe Urban Quilting was the name of the book. This is the book. These were just leftover like ends from when I was making the pattern, and I've just held on to them. I was originally planning on making a mini quilt for my cat, which I still have enough to, but it was good to be able to use these fabrics for them because they're actually the school colors of where 2 of the girls went to school. So that was, you know, we love when we can use scrap fabrics logically. And so I have 2 of these kind of put together, and I just need to cut out linings for them. And then the next one I have scraps from when I was trying to make sure my measurements were right for a different quilt. I'd made, you know, a mock-up block, but never did anything with them. So those will make up the 3rd one. And then, you know, so far for each of these, I have like in mind the person in the book club who they're going to. And then the last 2 that I haven't done are for the 2 women that I don't know as well. So it's just like, oh, like I have like no idea what we're doing. So I'm gonna make a kind of block that I've seen online that seems pretty simple as far as construction goes, of like putting it together. Hopefully that goes well. So I'm just gonna get into that one, I think. Do a little test to see if it even works. I'm not sure what fabric I'm gonna use for that yet. I have like piles of fabric laying around because I was like, oh, maybe I'll use this. Oh, maybe I'll use this. Oh, maybe I'll use this. Because I don't know them as well. So I don't know if they would like hate a color, which is always real fun. But we'll get into it. Okay, I spent a lot of time sorting through fabric scraps, trying to find something that I wanted for the block I was thinking about. I didn't, but I did find all of these excess triangles. I think they're 60-degree triangles from a quilt I had made for my niece, again, years ago. So I think I'm going to use these as a base for one of them. I'm going to spend some time arranging these, and obviously I'll have to cut out more, but we will cross that bridge in a second. Okay, I pinky swear I'm going to iron these before I start sewing, but I think I have enough dark squares now. I'm just gonna mix them up so we can more easily draw upon them. More randomly draw upon them, I guess. Looking at this, I think I want to do something different. I might want to do stripes. Maybe we do this on the outside. All right, I'm gonna play with this a bit, see if I can find a pattern that I like. Oh, wait. Yeah, you see what I'm seeing? I think this is where we go. I think this is what we do. Man, I cannot express how psyched I am for this one. And then I'm just gonna sew these together by row. So I'm gonna sew this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and then sew the rows together, just to make it, I feel like that's just gonna be the easiest way to construct this. All right, we're in it now. It's the process of sew and then iron and then sew and then iron and then sew and then iron. It's funny, the only thing I really asked for Christmas was a wool mat and a tiny iron for my desk. So I didn't have to get out the huge freaking ironing board every time. I'm trying to keep this really organized since it is a very particular pattern. I have my rows put together, and I normally wouldn't bother pinning, but because this is such kind of like a, not necessarily complex, but a little more unique of a pattern, I am going to pin this to hopefully keep it a little more straight and narrow. All right, this is how we're looking. You just got to press it flat. All right, I do think I'm going to cut these off right now because I don't like the way it looks with them on. So this is how it's looking. It is really freaking adorable. Okay, editing me is coming in real quick because there's kind of a hard transition from the first book sleeve I was working on to the second one. I actually have that sleeve right here. It's still unfinished because the book club meeting that I actually gave them to everyone, the woman missed that one, so I just like didn't have the deadline to finish it, so I added a little pink on top, so she's looking like that. It's, spoiler alert, not going to be put together in the end of this video. So the block I'm getting into making now is what I'm working on for most of the project. So I did finally find some fabrics to use in the patterns that I was thinking about. The pre-cut squares are left over from my very first quilt, which was a tiny quilt for my cats. And then the key fabric I bought at a quilt show 3 or 4 years ago and have yet to use. Always double check that. And spoiler alert, it turns out so great in this project. So to make these half square triangles, I'm referencing this graphic from stitchobsessed.com. And thankfully, because we're doing 4 at a time, we don't need to draw on any lines. You're just stitching around the outside and cutting diagonally. So that makes life easier. I do currently have pink thread in my machine, and I'm debating if I care to change it. I don't think I do. So we'll put this away, pull this over here, and get started on these. So for quilting, I usually don't bother to pin the squares when I'm making them, just because it's such a small amount of fabric that you can usually just place it and you have enough control that you can hold it while you're stitching. I do have a 1/4 inch seam allowance foot on my machine right now, which is what we need. Let's go. All right, so with our 4 fully sewn together pieces of fabric, now it's about cutting on the diagonal. And I don't think this is going to be large enough. Of course not. All right, all of our pieces are cut into our squares. So now it's time to iron them and then play around with our design. There's a bunch of different things you can do with 18 squares because you're in a 4x4 grid. And spoiler alert, I don't actually know what I want to do yet. So we're gonna iron these and then play around. All right, now it's kind of the fun part where we get to arrange this, play with a couple different arrangements here. I am gonna eventually trim the corners off these, but I'm gonna do something fun first. I think I'm basically going to keep playing with this until I find something I really like. Yeah, so I looked at pattern blocks, but still had to keep playing with it. I have aphantasia, so I can't really visualize. So things like this take me a lot of time.
And I basically decided to go with the first orientation I put down anyways. So I just got to trimming the corners off the blocks and making sure they're the same size.
So this is what we're going with. I'm gonna take a picture of it because I have a bad memory. I do also have a couple pieces of fabric to make a pocket for the back. I might just sew awkwardly from this distance so I don't have to touch anything.
And of course I have to include some ironing clips since sewing is mostly ironing.
All right, my square is done. I will press her flat and then show you what she looks like. There we go. It's actually turned out really well. I think the only seam that looks a little wonky is this one right here, but I mean, that's gonna get mostly hidden by the seam.
I'm using this green fabric for the back and the lining. It looks really nice with the greens of the main fabric, and it's actually a really nice color. It came from a bin of fabric and sewing supplies that my mom bought from a bazaar room years ago that's just been sitting in our basement.
Okay, now that I have my lining pieces and my back, there's one last thing before we start the quilting process, and that's cutting the batting to size. This is batting that's left over from a quilt that I'd made for my mom. So I'm just gonna cut two 10¼ inch pieces and then two, whatever this works out being. And I actually think this is looking like it's right around that width anyways, which is really nice. Okay, there's one last thing we need to do before we actually start quilting, and that's designing the pattern that we're going to quilt in.
Here I'm drawing on the quilting patterns with the heat erasable marker.
All right, back to our front piece again. Okay, I have my lines on here. They're not super perfect, but it's gonna look great. Although I do definitely need to change out my thread for this because I don't want to be stitching pink thread on top of green. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch that out, and then I guess we'll be ready to start sewing. In a miraculous turn of events, not only do I have dark green thread, but I have a dark green bobbin.
I did quilt the pocket front and backing all at the same time just to make things easier.
So while I was stitching, I did make a little just loop that I'm going to use to put a D-ring on, just to have for like charms or keys or whatever. Now I'm just going to cut off the extra batting on all of the pieces, and then for my pocket I'm going to sew the backing on just the top. The rest of it will get enclosed when we do the bag, and then we're almost ready for assembly. Almost. Actually, while I'm sewing the pocket, I'm going to sew the lining together. I'm going to leave a gap at the bottom or one of the sides so we can flip it all inside out. All right, I've caved and plugged in my space heater, so if you hear that, don't. But I'm at the point now where I'm ready to sew the outer shell together, and I am just going to put in one D-ring for little charms and trinkets. Again, right sides are together, and I have my little pocket set up in here too, because we're going to stitch this all together, all in one. Okay, I'll link the video I'm referencing, but I do flip this one right side out, but we'll leave the other one. All right, this is all right sides out. And then what we're gonna do is put the outside inside of the inside, and the inside stays wrong sides out, so that they will be, when this is inserted in, right sides together. And this is done. Oh man. I've been working on the rest of them. I think I've mentioned this in a very non-linear fashion, so they're all in various states of finished. None of the rest of them are finished. One last go on the machine, and then this is done. Okay, I say this all the time, but I'm like the queen of unpicking seams. I realized that I had wanted to put a little piece of elastic in so that we could have a little button on the other side that this loops into, and I completely forgot to do that. So I'm gonna unpick just like an inch, and then go over it again one more time. So we have our little loop in, and now we're gonna pull it through the hole in the bottom that I did not leave nearly big enough for this. All right, so we just have this seam to close, and I think I am just gonna stitch it down by machine. Normally it's the kind of thing I just do by hand, but I don't know, not in the mood for it today. All closed up, I'll get the lining inside.
And here I'm going over it with the iron one last time just to get everything down flat and make sure the heat erasable marker is all gone.
So these are my button thoughts. That light gray looks really good. The wooden button looks really good. I have a couple, like the gold looks really good, but I don't want that. It's kind of a statement. All right, we're going with the wooden one. Where'd that book? Oh, you're on top of the book.
And I thought I took a video before giving this to my friend, but I didn't, so whoops. These are kind of your final shots. Very profesh.
All right, one finished, 4 to finish. All right, I'm really excited for having this one done. For 3 of them, I still need to quilt the backs. 1 of them, I still need to quilt the front. And then I need to do the linings for all of them, and then obviously assembly. I think I'm gonna spend the next little bit just getting the linings together for all of them, and I still actually need to do the back pocket for one. So I think that's my goal for the rest of the day, is to just get all the linings put together, the pocket done, and the quilting done.
I'm editing the video now, and I realized that I actually never took final shots of all of the quilt sleeves before giving them out to my friends. The day after I recorded the last clip was actually the day of book club, if I'm remembering correctly. It's also been a month since I recorded this, so my memory is not there. But I did take photos, so these are how they looked in the end. The one that I spent the most time making in this video, the green one, I actually do like the most. Like, it is my favorite by far, and I'm so happy I have more of that key fabric. I'm excited to find something to do with it. But my second favorite was probably the pink pinwheel one. That one I did use velvet on the back, just to like give it a little extra something. And I don't think I'll ever touch velvet again. I have some left because it actually came in the same bin that my mom got the green fabric in. So I do still have quite a bit of it, but I just like, I understand why people say what they do about velvet. I do still have my own book sleeve to make. I had made the top for it, and that's about as far as I got. So maybe coming up, I'll do like a finishing my works in progress video, because I do have a lot of works in progress. So like and subscribe if you want to see that, because it's quite a list. Well, I'm gonna finish editing this and eat my dinner. It's soup. I'm not gonna spill it all over my desk. You can trust me that it's soup.